Good morning. Hi, if you haven't joined us before, I'm Tracy with TierraCast, and I'm here to share a project with you. We'd like to do some Facebook Lives once a week or so. You know, it's flexible, and just share inspirational projects with you. So we have one today that we think is kind of fun, and it's a little bit crafty. And we call these our Celestial Sparkle earrings, and they are made with some new bezel scrolls that we came out with quite recently. They are made to fit 14 by 10 millimeter crystal stones or cabochons. And but we decided for these that we would try. Sorry, I got a little hair or something around my mouth. We thought that we would try polymer clay and some Chaton crystals. So that's what we are going to demo for you today. We did put, I did put a link to the project in the description of the video, but I'm going to pop it here in the comments as well. That goes directly to this project on our website. So that's where you can see all of the part information, all of the supply information that's needed to make these earrings, and also downloadable instructions. So that's where you go find those. And thank you to everyone who's joining me. We have been focusing so much on some kind of fall themed projects lately. So we're just now going to start getting into more festive, holiday-ish type of stuff. So this felt like a good one to start with. So again, we're doing the Celestial Sparkle earrings, and I'm going to switch my camera so you can see my my work surface. And it's actually what you need for this project. It's not a complicated thing at all. You do need, of course, the Oval Scroll Bezels, or we do have many other bezel type of products that you could use for this type of project. So I'm also going to throw a link into the comments for other bezel products that we have. So, you know, you're not limited to these little oval scroll bezels. We also have many that are made for other kinds of crystal stones. We have some teardrops. We have some flat kind of bezel picture frame type of products. And we have bezels made for Rivoli stones. So there's definitely some other fun materials that you could use for this type of work. So the other thing you need is, of course, some polymer clay. Now we're using some Sculpey Primo, and it's the perfect color. It's called Galaxy Glitter. So it's blue and a little bit sparkly, and it's kind of perfect for this theme, the Celestial Sparkle. So, so you need some polymer clay, and there are also, this is a kind of the traditional polymer clays are something that you bake in an oven. So I have a kind of a designated toaster oven on hand. It's set at 275, and these components are going to need to bake for about 45 minutes. I think the general recommendation for the Sculpey materials or the Sculpey products are about 20 minutes for each 1/4 inch of thickness. So, and that varies with their different products. So you always need to follow the instructions very carefully, depending on which clay you're using. There's also 2-part epoxy clays that don't need baking at all. So there are 2-part things that you mix together as an A component and a B component, and then they harden. They give you a certain amount of working time, and then they harden on their own. We're using the polymer clay today. You also need for this product some crystal Chatons. I have some out in a few different sizes. The original design, of course, I used a little Big Dipper pattern. I liked the idea of doing a constellation. Some of the constellations are very complex, but the Big Dipper is nice and kind of simple, so it worked perfectly. I thought for this this go round that I would come up with a different pattern, because it doesn't have to be a constellation. It can be whatever arrangement of crystals you want. So I had a piece of paper yesterday and I just kind of drew the oval, and I started kind of deciding what kind of pattern of crystals I might want to put in there. And then I just recreated it. Once I got my my clay into my bezel, then I created that pattern. I started the process of creating that pattern, but I want to demonstrate that whole thing for you. So I've got my polymer clay, and I pulled off a piece that's about 10 millimeters round. And I was playing with this yesterday. So this little ball is kind of already separated from the block, and I want to warm it up a little bit. So I don't know how many of you have worked with polymer clay. Hello, Lynn. Thank you for joining me. I don't know how many of you have worked with polymer clay. You do want to kind of warm it up, soften it up. If you're doing like elaborate polymer clay work, which polymer clay artists just amaze me. I'm always so impressed with what they do with beautiful polymer clay designs. But they will run the clay through machines, through roller machines, to kind of soften them and flatten them to get them ready for their sculpture or their work. They really do such amazing things. I love the idea of doing that kind of work with polymer clay, but I've never actually had the chance to play with it. But simple stuff, yeah, I've done a little bit of that using our different bezel components. So I've got my little ball of polymer clay, warmed it up a little bit. I found that about a 10 millimeter ball works well for this bezel. So this is just might be a little bit over, but that's okay. We can remove the excess if we need to. Now I have one of my oval bezel components, and I'm just going to, this is the back, this is the front. In theory, you could, I guess, use the back as the front, but the way this bezel is designed, there's a little lip so that when you're using it with crystals, you apply adhesive and you set that the crystal stone right into there, and there's the little bezeled edge that holds it. So in this case, with the polymer clay, you could use it either way, but I'm going to use it as intended. Front is the front. And so I'm just pushing it. I'm starting to push my little oval kind of ball of clay up through the top or up through the bottom. And then I'm going to work it as I'm pressing it through. I'm going to shape it and kind of spread it out so it fits nicely into the bezel opening. You can see on the back that it's kind of just jumbled up. So I'm going to kind of fold it around, get it off the edges so I can have a little more material to push up through. It's getting to be where it's enough, I think. And I do want to make sure that there's good surface contact. When this goes into the oven and cures, you know, it needs to have the metal to kind of adhere to. So I want to make sure it's got some good surface contact. So now I'm just going to check my shape, kind of turn it in the different directions. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way. We know better not to create a bunch of visual clutter where we're working, right? And then I think that my dome is a good shape. I could keep pushing a little more material through and kind of make a bigger dome. But I think I'm just going to scrape a little bit of that off. I've got just a plastic card here that we were using. If you watched our UV resin demo a few weeks ago, that little plastic card makes a good scraper. And then I'm going to smooth that in the back, and I will come back and clean this up before we put it in the toaster oven. I'll kind of get that little bits of clay that are around the edge, get those off. And again, I was messing on the back, so I want to check my front again. It's looking pretty good. So in order to put, I'm going to demonstrate, I'm going to cut out my little template here. I do have this one set up that I'm going to do a pattern, but I also just wanted to show you this whole process of getting it ready to create a pattern and getting the clay in there and getting it prepped for all of that. And somewhere around here, I have a toothpick that just vanished into thin air. So if I was going to do another Big Dipper constellation, I actually just printed a little black and white diagram onto a piece of paper. You could just do something freehand. Whoops, I just bumped my light. But what I'm going to do here is I can just kind of position this over. Actually, the smaller, the better here. I want to be able to see the edge of my frame as I'm doing this. So I can just position this kind of over my bezel. And since I'm using, when I'm freehanding, I can make little divots in the clay with a toothpick. In this case, because I'm going through the paper, I'm going to use an awl. And I'm just going to kind of press a little hole. And I don't want it to be a big, deep hole. I just want to make a mark showing where I'm going to put the crystal for this pattern, this Big Dipper pattern. So I'm just going to make a mark with my awl at every point of my pattern. And then I can see that. Oops, I missed. There's one that didn't really show up very well. So I'm just going to use the awl to make that again. And you can see that as I did that, it kind of flattened my, my dome a little bit, but I can come back and just keep shaping that as I'm working. As I put the crystals in, it will flatten, which I'm going to show you on this one. So that's how you prep it. So now if I was going to use, start putting my crystals in, I have those little marks. And I would just use a pair of tweezers to plop the crystal chaton. And if you don't know what chatons are, they are just round crystals with the pointy backs. That's what a chaton is. So I've popped a crystal into that spot. And I want to press it down so that it gets some good contact. You don't want to press it so hard that you like submerge it into the clay, but you definitely want to make sure it's in there well. Ideally, the little edges of the crystal will be kind of down into the clay a little bit. So I got this one already because I thought it would be a fun pattern, and I mixed up the crystal sizes, little chaton sizes. This tiniest one I'm using is an SS9, or I'm sorry, a PP9 is the size. We have a customer called Dreamtime Creations. I'm pretty sure she sells retail. I'm not sure, but she's a good source for stones of this size, this type in all sizes. So that's where I got this particular bag, and they are PP9s. So I've got my biggest little chaton in there, pressing it down. And then I just start going around with my little smaller ones. There are some tools called, oh, what the heck do they call those? They're a little stick that's got wax on the end. And I meant to get some of those out. Let me see if I have something within reach. I do. Have patience here. Bear with me. These tools are helpful when you're working with this kind of little crystals. They're just a little tool with a little wax tip, and then people can just, it was sealed up with plastic last time I used it, so let's pick some of that off. So the idea is you can flip a crystal over and pick it up with the tip of this tool and set it, in theory, right where you want it in your design. Now, great tool. I am actually much more accustomed to just using tweezers, so that's what I'm going to go back to. And I like these tweezers for this with the sorry, I am gonna be kind of focusing on picking these up, and I may get quiet for a minute. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Lois. I wish I was better with this tool. That would be a good thing to demo for you guys. I'm just not very agile with it. Let's try it again. All right, that one okay. Maybe this will go quicker than my tweezer approach. What I was going to say about the tweezers I was using is that I like the kind that have this soft handle, because you can turn them over and use them to press the crystal down into the clay very gently. You don't want to push hard, remember, because you just want to be gentle. So anyway, you got the crystal tools that are, the wax tip tools that are an option, and you've got just some tweezers. You'll find, if you decide to work with this stuff, you'll find which one works best for you for sure. And, as long as I get them all in place right now, then I can come in and adjust and set them a little more securely before I put them in the toaster oven. And of course, so this design seemed like a fun holiday type of sparkly thing that you could wear for parties, or you could, just use to dress up. There's, polymer clay comes in a million colors, so you could really have fun doing different things. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Andrea. This is fun, Andrea. I think you would like playing with this. I keep fumbling with my little crystals, but I'm getting the hang of it. Yeah, different colors. You could combine colors and just, like I was saying, polymer clay artists are amazing to me. They really do some absolutely amazing things with the clay. So feels like a real crafty, fun thing to play with if you're making gifts and stuff for the holiday season. Oops, set one, lost one. Lynn, yeah, I was talking about the 2-part crystal clay, which is also really good for working with this technique with setting the chatons into a material. It doesn't seem like it comes in quite as many colors as the polymer clay, but it certainly is a very good option. So now I've got everything in place, and I want to make sure everything's set well, and I want to reshape my dome, because all that pressing, of course, kind of got things out of whack a little bit. But I think it's a pretty pattern. It'll just be sparkly. Not so much a constellation, but just a pretty sparkly bauble. And the good thing to do is to turn it to its side. And if you can see that that crystal, the bottom side of it is still showing above the clay, keep working it, get it pressed in there a little better. I want to make sure that once it's cured, it's cured. This is a messy process. You know, you get clay under your fingernails. So I'm going to check my shape, see if after all of that adding of crystals. Oh, you color your own, Lynn. What do you use? Lynn is saying that she uses, she colors her own crystal clay. So we'll find out what she says that she uses for doing that. So that's looking pretty good. Now, I do have a toaster oven. It's over in the corner. It's not usually in my office. It's usually out in the pattern room slash jeweler studio. That's where Kirsten, our product development manager, kind of does all of her magic. So it's basically really like a bench jeweler studio out there. And it's usually out there. So I brought it in here for the demo so I could get prepared yesterday. And it's way over there on the floor because it's just a garden variety little toaster oven that's, you know, would be suitable for putting in your kitchen. But the cord is only like 2 feet long. So I couldn't put it anywhere near me. I had to, it's over in the corner next to the power outlet. I couldn't believe it. So at this point that my toaster oven would be heated up. Oh yeah, I do want to look on the back. Uh-oh, which one are we working with? I have one that's already pre-baked, but this is the one we were just working with. The clay is still soft. The back didn't get too funky, but if there was clay all over the place, I would just go in with a Q-tip and kind of clean it and smooth it and make the back look okay. Obviously, it's the back. It doesn't have to look fabulous. But when I was all done fussing and making sure things looked good, then I would put this in the toaster oven. It's set at 275 because that's what the Sculpey Primo is designates. But you do want to, like I said, make sure that whatever polymer clay that you're using, you follow the directions carefully. Lynn says she used Cast and Craft opaque pigments. I assume that those are probably like an acrylic base. That sounds very intriguing. Sounds like fun. So anyway, this would go into the toaster oven for about 45 minutes because it's kind of thick piece. So it would take about 45 minutes. And then this is like cooking show magic. Voila. 45 minutes later, we would take it out and it's all hard. The crystals are set. It's all done. You can see that the one I did yesterday, the dome is slightly taller. So, you know, something to think about while you're making yours to just, if you want to make sure you're consistent, you know, make sure one dome is the same as the other. But that's it. The magic of like, I did this yesterday and now it's all done. So then these original ones, I used our little open crescent moon charm to connect those. But I thought it might be fun to see how they looked with the star instead. Oh, Lynn says they're a concentrate. Those sound very interesting. And I assume that you can use them on more than just epoxy clay. Cast and Craft opaque pigments. Sounds like something to get my hands on and play with. So now I just have some medium-sized oval jump rings. I think these ones are our 4x3. Well, now I'm confusing myself. Am I going to use the star? Am I going to use the crescent moon? I think I decided I was going to use the star, right? So this will be interesting because our star is a 5-pointed star, of course. The loop for the top is centered up here, but down here, it's not going to be centered because I'm going to put it in one of the other points of the star. So yeah, we'll see how that looks. Hi, Emily from Mobile, Alabama, Motorcrafts. Nice to see you. So proud I remembered your name. I think that looks pretty cute. And then I need a earwire. It is nice with the epoxy clay. You don't have to worry about setting time like you do with the two-part. I'm sorry, I think I said epoxy clay. I meant polymer clay. You don't have to worry about the drying time as much. I could start, well, you saw I had started the new one yesterday and got my clay set and made all my little pattern divots, and then I just stuck it in a little plastic bag so I could come back to it today. With the two-part epoxy clay, you do have to, you have a limited amount of time to work with. So we'll pretend this was done and this one is done, and we'll put it on the moon. You could actually, for a pair of earrings, oops, I don't know if you guys heard that, but there's some noise going on in the other room. That's what happens when you work in a manufacturing facility. Things can get noisy. Thank you, Tammy and Valerie. I like that this project is kind of a great kickoff to our slightly more seasonal holiday season content. So I'm looking forward to doing some more sparkly stuff and some more Christmassy or gifty type of things. So it's fun to have different sizes of these little chatons to work with, because then you could really play with different patterns. I considered when I was playing with the idea of the demo yesterday, I thought, oh, should I put one of those great big ones in? And chose not to, but yeah, fun to have different sizes. Carrie, no need to apologize for coming in late, and I'm so glad that you'll be able to watch this later. You know, just pull it up and watch it again. And sorry about the storm and Wi-Fi issues. Glad things are worked out. So there we go, guys. I think that this would be fun as the finished design to mix the star and the moon. I kind of like that. And it does, this one is going to hang a little bit off center, but I think that's okay. And this one I will finish up later so that I have another start on a pair of the Big Dipper earrings. So there we go. I'm going to switch my camera. And I did make one of these. Don't know if you guys will be able to see this very well. When I was first playing with this idea, when we were doing the Celestial launch, I did turn one into a pendant because I thought that was nice. So another option for these. Make a great pendant, make great earrings. All those other bezel type of things that you can play with for this. This is not a very effective way to show you guys these because they're just falling off my hands. So, but I did put a link in the up in the comments. So yeah, check them out. Check out the bezel components. Check out the polymer clay. There's other brands. Sculpey is a well-known and has a lot of great formulas. No, Valerie, no kits for these earrings. It's a nice idea, but you can find all of the parts that you would need to make these on the link that's in the description of the video today, and also in the comments there's a link, and you can get the parts list and find out everything else you need to know and download the written instructions. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that you are inspired and find some fun things to make. And whenever you make something that you're inspired to by one of our videos, please feel free to share it with us. You can post on our Facebook, TierraCast Facebook page, and show us what you made. So thanks. And I'll get cooking on what I'm going to do next week. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week and be well and make lots of stuff. And we'll see you. Bye.